Hi, Roy Stone here with Jamstone Magic, and I'd like to take just a moment and share with you one of our newer products. It's the Hippity Hop Astronauts, or as I like to call it, the Great Space Race. We have two very large 16-inch rocket ships, and inside of each rocket ship we have an astronaut. Here we have the red astronaut, and over here we have the blue astronaut. Now, how many of you know who the first people in space were? The first people in space was Yuri Gagarin and John Glenn. Yuri Gagarin, of course, was Russian, and John Glenn was American. These two guys started what you would call the space race. You see, it all started when the Russians sent a satellite into space. This satellite was called Sputnik. Now, Sputnik was about the size of a basketball. And it was covered in all these little antennas, and it flew in space. And the Americans saw the satellite and were all freaking out. Not because the Russians had sent a satellite into space, but the Americans were upset because the Russians had beat us to it. The Russians had made it into space first. Well, America, we decided that just wouldn't do. We could do better than that, so we decided that we would go into space. You see, the space race was all about who could do the first thing in space. Well, the Russians had set up the first satellite. So America, we built a great big rocket, a bigger rocket, and we sent that rocket into space. But what made ours different wasn't that we had sent a bigger rocket ship or that we had sent another satellite. We had sent a camera into space. Matter of fact, we took the very first selfie ever. It was the biggest selfie in the world. It was a selfie of the planet itself. That's right, we sent a camera into space and took a picture of the world from space. So the Russians were like, oh no, they put up a camera into space. We've got to do something different. So what the Russians did is the Russians said, well, we'll build another rocket ship, and this time we'll send a monkey into space. The Russians decided that they would send a monkey into space. Now, not just any monkey. This monkey's name was Ham. Ham. A name for a monkey, Ham. Ham's not a name of a monkey. It's the name of a sandwich. I know what. His name should have been Banana Pudding. Then we could say that the Russians put banana pudding in space. But they didn't. They put Ham into space. And America was like, oh man, now they've beat us to it. They have put a monkey into space. Actually, an ape, put chimpanzee as an ape. But they had put him in space. So what the Americans decided is that they would build an even bigger rocket ship. And the Americans decided that their rocket ship would be big enough to take them to the moon. And America said, we will be the first to the moon. And the Russians were like, no, we'll build a rocket ship, we'll go to the moon. So the race was on to see who would go to the moon first. Would it be the Russians or would it be the Americans? Who would make it to the moon first? Well, as history would tell you, the Americans made it first. We planted our flag on the moon and said, we claim the moon in the name of America. But you know what? We've also found out that we weren't the first ones there. No, we weren't. It turns out that the aliens had made it to the moon first. And they were eating all the green cheese just for themselves. Well, that's the Great Space Race, our Hippity Hop Astronauts. You can get yours today. Find us at jamstonemagic.com or look us up on Facebook. Love to hear from you.